Hello everybody. Today I'd like to make a video about how to know whether the news that you're getting is real or fake. Now it's a huge topic right now, and unfortunately I can't give you a formula, but I can give you an approach that I know works, that I've been testing for, let's see, how old are you in 5th grade? In 5th grade, you're 12 or 13. So I'm 48. So let's say 35 years. So I've been testing out this system for 35 years. And I'm 99% certain that it works. So here it goes. Basically, the first principle is to not trust what you read in the paper or online, even if it's a credible source. The second principle is to view the same information from people that have different biases and perspectives. So let's start with the second one. So if you get all your news from Fox News, or if you get all your news from CNN, or if you get all your news from NPR, or if you get all your news from KPFA, or if you get, basically you get the point. If you get all your news from a single source, you're going to not get the whole picture. That's how lawyers are trained. Lawyers are trained. Now, the beauty, so most people view lawyers as, you know, the schmarmy, do anything for money kind of person. But everything has a light and a dark side. That's the dark side of being a lawyer. The light side of being a lawyer is someone who is dedicated to truth and to fairness. And so lawyers are supposed to be trained to be dedicated to truth and to fairness. In our system, you know, people, you have the right to legal representation. So even if you're guilty, someone's going to try to make a case for you that you're innocent. That's not the type of training that I'm talking about. I'm talking about try to discover the truth. So when you're a lawyer, you look at both sides and you try to discover the truth in its highest form. That's how you're trained. So again, forget all the stereotypes, forget what actually happens in the courtroom. You're supposed to actually learn how to discover the truth. An investigator is supposed to learn that as well. So how do you do that? It's pretty simple. You basically look at as many perspectives as you can. There's a wonderful story of an elitist in London who many of you may have heard of, where he was trying to prove how the elites knew better than the common folk. And there was a cow being weighed, and whoever got the weight closest to the cow, I think it was a bull actually, would win the bull. So they, did the raffle, they found the person who got closest, and then they won the bull. And so this scholar, his name eludes me, I'll probably put it in the notes, he decided that he was going to prove that the elites, that the scholarly people made the best guesses. And what he found, so he asked the people, can I get those guesses? I want to get all those guesses. And what he found to his surprise, and this is the best testing, is when your theory is disproven by evidence, then you know that you haven't got an unobjective bias to the information. He was trying to prove that the elites all guessed the closest, the people who had the most knowledge and education. And what he found was that was totally random. And that if you amassed all of the guesses, that most of the guesses of the common folk, of everybody, would arc like a bell curve towards the actual weight. So what that proved was that statistically, if you add more people to a problem and ask them for the solution, and you average out the solution that they give you, the answer that they give you, you're going to get closer to the correct answer. Now, most of us don't like to think about that because that may challenge our ideological views of what's right and what's wrong. But if you just take a purely objective statistical analysis, the more people you throw a question at, the more likely you're going to get the right answer if you put it on a bell curve and take the average answer that people give. So the second part of that is, so the third principle is that you become less objective the more authoritative you think you are, or the more benefits that you get. It's one of the reasons, I believe it was Socrates, he actually thought that there should be a ruling class that was separate from society and didn't get any of the trappings of society so that they could objectively lead. Now, I'm not arguing for that. That's way beyond the scope of any philosophical inquiries that we're doing. I'm simply trying to give you the basics of how to determine whether information, news in particular, is fake or is real. So, first one is don't trust anything, no matter where it comes from. Second one is verify it from independent and multiple sources. And the third one is to realize that the more you have invested, either financially or because of your status, in a particular point of view, it's going to be less easy for you to be able to see the truth. So on to the second one, multiple perspectives. So I tend to watch YouTube short news segments just because it's a format that works for me right now. So I watch Deutsche Welle, German perspective. I watch BBC, the English perspective. I watch Al Jazeera, the Middle Eastern perspective. I think that's the Qatari perspective. I watch CNN. And I feel like I get enough of the Fox News talking points from the President of the United States, so I don't actually watch Fox News at this point. If we had a liberal president, I'd probably start watching Fox News just to get some more of that perspective. And another mistake that most people make when they're trying to figure out whether something is true is they go to the farthest extremes of analysis. And on the far left, you're going to get wacko analysis, and on the far right, you're going to get wacko analysis. So you have to find those perspectives that are really measured. Another important way to figure out whether something is fake news or real news is to, so let's say a topic that is super important to you. So for me, a topic that's super important to me is campaign finance and the unfair advantage that money brings in politics today. So when I want to discover whether a bill, let's say, or a principle is in fact being accurately reported, I will do more in-depth analysis. So, I'll look at a longer documentary, I'll read a longer article, and I'll try to do it from a couple of different sources. So that's the multiple perspective idea. You have to get multiple perspectives or you are living in a bubble and you're not getting the accurate information in order to figure out what is fake and what is real. So I'm trying to be really clear that, things that are not portrayed accurately come from all sides. I'm hesitant to say, but I think, it's more deliberate from... No, it's not deliberate. I don't think it's deliberate on either side. On both sides, each side gets more entrenched in their ideological viewpoint and promotes that. Right now, we're just hearing so much of how the right in our political system believes that the left is pumping out all this fake news. So there's a lot of analysis of that right now. But equally, there were a time when the left was talking about how the right was pumping out a bunch of fake news when the rise of radio talk show came out. And they both were accurate to a certain degree, not to the degree that they claim, but to a certain degree there's misinformation, there's stuff that's left out. So it's more about a skewed spin than an actual out-and-out lie. Now today, obviously, we know there's out-and-out lies because that, unfortunately, we have a leader in our country who has very little respect for actual facts. And that, if let's say you have a conservative leaning bend and you question that, well, do some in-depth analysis and see if what he says is actually accurate. And you'll find that most of it isn't, and a few things are. Most of it's talking points. But I don't want to digress on the politics too much. So, discovering one is multiple sources. The second one is don't believe Don't trust anybody, no matter how authoritative. Do your own digging. Use your own logical powers. One thing that I would recommend is taking a basic logic course. Now, that can be just a simple online course. You can read a short book. You can just learn the basic principles. There's basic ideas like A plus B equals C. Not A, but sorry, I don't know my formulas very well, but there's some really simple arguments that don't work logically. So, for example, when people say that, well, if you let a man and a man marry, then people are going to start marrying pigs. That's a fallacy. That's not the way logic works. It doesn't follow. A and B doesn't equal C in that particular case. So that's another basic one. It's just basic formulas, mathematical formulas of logic. They're super simple, and they're really, you'll start seeing where people are doing, for example, something called a red herring or a straw hat. So those are a couple examples. I'll try to put some of those links in the show notes. So how to, what does it mean to not trust your sources? So I'm going to tell this in story format. So I mentioned that when I was 12 years old, I started on this path. Now, I have to thank Mr. Schultz, my social science professor at Malibu Park Elementary in 5th grade. Now, he came in one day, he walked in the class, and he said, "Kids, there's been an amazing discovery." Now, this is back in 1990, oh God, what was it? No, it was 1985-ish, something around there. And he said, they've discovered that the Earth is a cube with rounded edges. And not only that, but the entire solar system and the entire universe, every planet and star are cube with rounded edges. And then he pulls out a Los Angeles Times, and the Los Angeles Times had recently come out with color photographs. And then he showed us the color photograph and the headline article of the Earth is a cube with rounded edges. And we all listened and we're like, nah, that's baloney, I don't believe you. And then he started reading the article, made a bunch of valid points of how our optics were skewed in our lenses and how we really couldn't see what was actually happening and the mathematics work out. And then he put that down and he picked up Time magazine, another big full picture of the Earth with a cube with rounded edges, reads another article, and then pulls out a scientific journal. Same thing. Full article, there's mathematics are wrong, skewed lenses, verified independently. And I was blown away. I thought to myself, holy crap, how could I not know this? And I was totally convinced. And then at the end of the story, the end of the class, he said, the punchline, this was all made up. So what's the lesson today? The lesson today is just because it's in a source that you trust, just because it sounds right, just because it's backed up by data and pictures, you can't trust it. You have to use your own powers of logic and observation in order to determine whether it is the truth. So I don't know how to say it any other way other than use your own powers of logic and observation. I think Einstein said it best when he said, the universe is understandable. There's no reason that we can't understand the universe. So everything is understandable. We don't have to chalk it up to mystery. There is great mystery, and that's a wonderful thing to inhabit in your imagination and to find meaning from in life. But when you're trying to discover the facts on the ground today of what affects you in your life and in your world, it's critical that you follow Einstein's lead that the universe, the world, it's all understandable, and you can discover the truth. That's how Einstein did what he did. He firmly believed that he could discover the nature of the universe, where everybody else failed. That was the background to his massive intellect, was this incredible belief and faith in his own powers of logic and observation. So the last piece is this idea that once you've already gained notoriety or wealth or anything else that makes you comfortable in your own existence, something that makes you feel familiar. It doesn't have to be comfortable. You could be complaining and uncomfortable about a million things in your life. But if something gives you a sense of identity, you're going to hold on to it if the truth is contrary to that. So I'm sorry I can't come up with an example. Maybe I'll come up with one and put it in a later video. So I hope that's been valuable to you. Again, to review, number one, don't trust your sources, no matter how authoritative they seem. Use your own mind to back up. The one thing that I would add to that is if you dig into sources enough times and then you find that it's backed up by the data, and what they say in science is it's repeatable. If you can repeat something in multiple ways, then you can let that one go for now, unless it keeps coming up as questionable, and then move on to something else. So that's one. Second is get outside perspectives than what you're normally listening to. You're going to find that your perspective on things starts to shift. And if you get, the more perspectives you get, the closer to the truth you're going to be. That's just statistics. Unless again, the caveat is, unless your ego, your comfort, or your identity is so locked in to one point of view, and you don't have the capacity to change, then none of this will matter. So that's actually probably the most important thing. You have to stretch your ability to be uncomfortable inside of information and facts that you don't want to hear. Super hard. We all struggle with that. I struggle with it all the time. Everybody struggles with it. But if you're not struggling with it, you are not getting closer to the truth. I would say the final piece in this talk is that truth is not a destination. It is much like sustainability, it's a pathway. So there is no place called truth. We, by nature, as humans, have a limited individual perspective on what is in the big scene of what is in the universe. All we can do is repeat things, see what the community at large is learning, and try to stay ahead of that curve. Try to be one of the wise ones. And not just one of the wise ones, but hopefully one of the compassionate ones. And not just one of the wise and compassionate ones, but hopefully one of the ones who actually uses that wisdom and uses that compassion and takes some action that makes the world a better place. So thank you for listening. If you liked this video, please subscribe to the channel, and please like this video so that I can make more. And I can spend less time doing things that I feel less passionate about and more time doing important work that I feel is making the world a better place. Thank you. Have a great day.